Salutations, Legion of Doom. Welcome to Podcast The Storm, where socially awkward outcasts, crazy weirdos, and all-around nerds convene to talk and debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co-host, the Nerdy Occultist, aka the Authenticator, Dalton L. Mortimer.
Good evening, folks. Castlevania Season 4 was awesome. Jupiter's Legacy is better than the critics say, and other interesting things happen in entertainment news that we can't really, or we don't really have an angle on. So just throwing those things out there.
Mm-hmm. And I'm your host, last time Lord Wannabe, the Brainstormer Pop Culture. How's everyone doing tonight?
I am doing well. The week started out terribly because I didn't really get sleep the first 2 days of the week, but it's better now. Thank God for sleeping pills.
Kind of the same, actually. To be fair, nothing really eventful happened this week. Yeah, so it's going to be a weird one because we got something. We might cover something else that we've been meaning to cover.
Yeah, because basically the long and the short of it is I forgot that we only had two stories at the start of the week, so I just forgot to get two more. And then as we were sitting here getting ready to start the show like we always do, Brainstormer's like, we only have two things. And I'm like, I don't. Really? I thought we had extras. but I guess this is my fault. I should have done my stupidity detection thing that I always do, and I didn't do it.
Actually, there might be another palate cleanser after the first article. I'll have to look that up while we're covering this first article.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this came out a while ago, and we're just now getting to it just because we've been kind of, I want to say, a little over full on things.
Yeah, there was a good stretch where like every week was a full week before we even got to like Wednesday, and now I guess we're back to the lull in material again.
Mm-hmm. Behind Warner Brothers' search for a Black Superman. It's by The Hollywood Reporter. After enlisting Ta-Nehisi Coates to write the latest feature on the superhero, the studio is searching for its director and star as it kickstarts the next phase of its DC universe. It's by Tatiana Siegel, Boys Kit, or Boys Kit, I'm not sure. It's published May 5th, 2021.
Mm-hmm. And can I just say on the behalf of myself and several of my friends, especially like Mr. E, the thought of Ta-Nehisi Coates writing Superman is pain and suffering, and someone is getting sued for the pain and the suffering that is causing everyone someday.
Hi, how you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, while promoting his Amazon Prime film, Tom Clancy's Without Remorse, in late April, Michael B. Jordan put a kryptonite pin in any rumors that he might suit up as Warner Brothers' next Superman. I'm flattered that people have me in that conversation, Jordan told Hollywood Reporter. It's definitely a compliment, but I'm just watching on this one. With that, a whole new guessing game has kicked off, centered on who will play the Man of Steel, and arguably more pressing who will direct. sources say J.J. Abrams, who's producing the film, is not among the many possibilities being considered. When Warner's announced in February that celebrated author Ta-Nehisi Coates is writing the screenplay and Abrams is producing, it did not address the matter of helming.
To refer to Ta-Nehisi Coates as celebrated in any sincere context means you are a moron. Because Ta-Nehisi Coates is only celebrated in the sense that the critical powers that be like funneling awards his way. That does not mean he has anything resembling skill or talent or even a reason to continue writing ever. Just so we're all aware that this is very much a class issue again. You have the critical class, the journalistic class, the academic class, who for some reason find Ta-Nehisi Coates to be in any way insightful, and then you have people who actually care about these mediums screaming at the top of their lungs like fucking Steve Carell's character from The Office, "No God, please, no God, why?"
Right. Get that a whole. Alright, got that. But insiders say Warner's and DC are committed to hiring a black director to tackle what will be the first cinematic incarnation of Superman featuring a black actor, with one source adding that putting Abrams at the helm would be tone deaf. Yeah, that, see, right there, everything that was described is already tone deaf in itself.
This entire exercise is nothing but tone deaf. And quite frankly, it has nothing to do with the idea of a black Superman. There are plenty of black Superman characters that you could utilize. There's Calvin Ellis, there's Val Zod, there's Icon in the Milestone universe, and it goes on and on and on. The problem is, number one, it seems like Warner Brothers is insisting on just race swapping Clark Kent / Kal-El, which is just stupid. And also,
I believe Calvin Ellis is also Kal-El, but that's a different universe, obviously. So
yeah, but my point is, if you really wanted to play this black Superman concept where it lies, and I see no reason why you shouldn't, there are plenty of options you could go with that would make everyone happy. It would make comic book fans happy. It would make people who want to see a black Superman, irrespective of being comic book fans, happy. And it would make people who just want a good story happy. But instead of any of these decent ideas, you decided to make a race swapped Kal-El, which is just possibly the stupidest thing you could possibly do, with the possible exception of hiring Ta-Nehisi Coates to be anywhere near this project. Because irrespective of race, irrespective of identity politics, irrespective of wrong-headed corporate decisions made by Warner Brothers, Ta-Nehisi Coates cannot write worth a damn. And every time he is requested to write worth a damn, what you end up getting is so caked in his own personal socio-political biases that no sense can be made of it outside of those biases. None whatsoever. And therein lies the problem. It has nothing to do with my racism, my sexism, my whatever. It has to do with the fact that you started by hiring someone who should not be employed as a writer, certainly not by Hollywood. And then, it seems, rather than take any of the sensible precautions of using Calvin Ellis, Val Zod, or Icon, or another Milestone, like, there's about 5 different black variations on Superman in the Milestone universe you probably could have also used, and it probably would have made people much happier. But instead of any of these, you decided to race swap Clark Kent instead, which is just stupid.
Right. Now, you see, and before anyone gets their knickers in a bunch. Also, good to see you too, Tillium29.
Hey, Tillium.
Yeah. Agreed. Like when he has written Captain America. Yeah. No, don't. Do not get me started on Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Don't get anyone started on Ta-Nehisi Coates who knows about Ta-Nehisi Coates, because you will get a rant. Because that is the only correct response to that fucker. Seriously.
Right. Listen, like I wouldn't have a problem if they casted an actor that happens to be black as Clark Kent if the actor was good. Simply on
And it wasn't obviously motivated by the desire to race swap for the sake of race swapping.
Right. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I mean, granted, it's still weird. It would still be weird, obviously, but I'd be fine if the actor did a good job playing both Superman and Clark Kent.
Mm-hmm.
And could it be able to swap between them effortlessly? Mm-hmm. I know they're the same person, obviously, but you know what I mean. Like in physical,
they're different personas in the same way that like Batman and Bruce Wayne are two different personas. Well, not in the exact same way, because that's kind of the Batman and Superman are always going to be the inverse of each other. But you get what I'm saying. Like the persona Bruce Wayne adopts when he's being the public figure known as Bruce Wayne is very different from the persona he adopts when he is Batman. And likewise, the persona that Clark Kent adopts when he is being the public figure Clark Kent is different from the persona he adopts when he's being Superman. And both of these are very different from the person who he actually is, who is kind of somewhere in the middle.
Talia, maybe they need a black alien to write this Superman instead of Coates going by their own logic.
You would think they would go that far, but apparently no. It just needs to be a person of the right color, entirely regardless of their background or culture.
Which is why I would always advocate, like, I would love to see Christopher Priest write a Superman story, because I'm curious to see what he'd do.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Man, because
in fact, you could solve about 90% of the problems with this concept just by swapping out Ta-Nehisi Coates for Christopher Priest.
I think Christopher Priest, though, would get up in arms with the whole black Superman thing, because he doesn't want to be known as a black writer.
And I'm sure he would be among the largest voices saying this doesn't make any fucking sense, which it doesn't. Even if you wanted to play with a black Superman, there's like 5 different black Supermans just off the top of my head you could have gone with that wouldn't have required race swapping Clark Kent.
In a fitting, moving on, unless we got anything else to say.
No, go ahead.
Okay. In a fitting twist, the director's search is pitting DC against none other than Marvel. As Warner's looks to fill its Superman vacancy, Marvel is on the hunt for a Blade helmet and is combing through the same list. But the question will come down to what kind of filmmaker Battle Robot and Warner's want. An up-and-comer who can be backed by Abrams, who knows his way around tentpoles and franchises, or an established filmmaker like Barry Jenkins or Ryan Coogler. I mean, to be fair, Ryan Coogler's a good director.
Yeah. Not sure I'd want him on this project, just because it seems like there would be a little bit of a conflict of interest, being as he's the Black Panther guy, and being the Black Superman guy on top of it would be a little bit confusing, I think. I'm not saying he couldn't do it. I'm just saying that would be a hell of a thing to negotiate between DC and Marvel. Like, the only reason James Gunn is able to do Suicide Squad and Guardians is because he got fired and nuked from orbit in the court of public opinion in the interim. So he was able to kind of swing it. But
Um,
Ryan Coogler, I don't think, could manage that because there's no way in hell they'd ever fire Ryan Coogler because the shitstorm that would ensue if anyone did that would probably burn down the planet. Because talk about things that would get Black Lives Matter up in arms.
yeah,
Given how iconic Black Panther is as the quote unquote black franchise these days.
it's just stupid. Anyway, Talium 29, Priest Deathstroke one was amazing. Well, all except towards the end when New 52 Deathstroke went against Rebirth Deathstroke. It felt very rushed. I'll take your word for it. I had something. Ironically, there is a Black Superman I would love to see, but it's at Marvel. Blue Marvel.
That would also be interesting.
The guy's too overpowered, so there's no way they use him.
Well, maybe they'd be more willing to now because it seems like they're upping the general power scaling for like Phase 4 and onwards. Because I mean, you've got Doctor Strange, you've got Captain Marvel. For unfortunately, now she is in that rough same league, and it pisses me off. You've got Ms. Marvel, who basically, according to the background info on her series, is going to have powers like similar to the Green Lanterns, and she's going to be able to do like energy constructs. You've got Monica Rambeau, who basically was able to 1v1 Agatha Harkness. So yeah, it seems like in general the power scaling is going up in the MCU, so maybe they will get around to use it. Although Marvel, if you really honest and for truly want to stick it to DC, I'm just gonna throw this out there. Squadron Supreme movie.
Oh, dude, there's no way they're gonna use those characters though, man. There's no way.
Though the sheer just masterful trolling of that would be the most glorious thing ever, and we would love you forever for it, Marvel. Like seriously, like
well, it's not even that. It's just they're really cool characters, actually.
well, they are obviously, and again, in the same way that I hear Captain America: Civil War got greenlit based on Kevin Feige hearing that they were doing BDS. If Kevin, if you truly wanted to flex over DC and completely just make fools out of them, basically take the Squadron Supreme characters and then do basically what DC should have done with the Justice League all along. And again, the sheer just trolling factor of that would be glorious.
Actually, I would honestly argue that they should take a piece from the 80s run of Squadron Supreme, which was basically Watchmen before Watchmen.
Yeah.
But never got the recognition it deserved, and it really needs to get the recognition.
Yeah, that would also be an interesting angle to take with it. Or a Sentry movie while we're
oh dude, the Sentry.
While we're gifting Marvel with ways to screw with DC on a silver platter here, we might as well go all the way with it.
Again, it's just a really cool character overall, is my opinion.
Yeah. And again, it would allow the MCU to go into such a weird, cosmic, mystical kind of place, and I need my weirdness fixed, Marvel. Regardless of anything else, I need my weirdness fixed. Both Marvel and DC need to get their shit together and just go full tilt weird with it, please.
Yeah,
I'm sick of grounded stories in a comic book universe. Not saying they can't also happen. I'm just saying, like, I've been very patient for like a decade, and I'm not getting my weirdness fixed. So please, someone remedy that.
All right. The former list can include Creed 2, Stephen Caple Jr., J.D. Dillard, Regina King, who got raised for drama One Night in Miami, and Shaka King, who was popular at Warner's thanks to the Best Picture Oscar nominee Judas and the Black Messiah. To be fair, I've never really heard of these movies.
Yeah, and see, here's another problem. The Oscar caliber or Oscar bait movies have become so insular and self-congratulatory that no one gives a fuck about them anymore. And in fact, they're almost like engineered to make sure the audience at large doesn't give a fuck about them, which is kind of just wrong-headed, a wrong-headed way to make movies to begin with.
Mm.
But that's a Pandora's box for another day, I think.
Some potential directors have met with both studios for both films, even as one agent said the process was phenomenally early. Meanwhile, Coogler may be a non-starter for either assignment, given that he will be occupied with Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which releases July 8th, 2022. Coates isn't expected to deliver his Superman script until mid-December. It's going to be shit. Likewise, Marvel isn't rushing with Blade, whose start date was pushed from this September to July 2022 so that the studio can spend time working on the Stacey Osei Colford pen script.
Why the fuck isn't it in the October date? Because there's an October 7th, 2022 date sitting right there, and they're not using it for anything. And it's annoying the fuck out of me. They should have pushed Doctor Strange into that date, because it would have lined up perfectly with the dark, mystical nature of Doctor Strange. But if they're not going to do Doctor Strange with it, then what they should do is have Doctor Strange come out that March, and then have Blade come out that October. That's what they should do, because they should tie those two as closely together as they possibly can, because dark and weird is exactly what Blade should be. But I don't know how much further I can be bothered to do your own job for you, Marvel. If you can't think of this shit on your own, I'm not sure I should be so willing to do it for you, especially when you take all of my dreams and hopes and wishes in WandaVision and shit all over them with a boner joke. And no, I'm never getting over that until they fix it. Moving on.
Okay. While the next Superman will likely land with a named director, the star could be a relative unknown, as was the case when Brandon Routh suited up for Bryan Singer's.
Bless you.
Thank you. Bryan Singer's 2006 Superman Returns, and Henry Cavill donned the cape for Zack Snyder's 2013 Man of Steel. Oh yeah, both those actors really need to be given more work as Superman, honestly, because Henry Cavill never really got a chance.
No, they never gave him anything to work with. It's kind of sad, because physically he's the most Superman we've gotten, I think, ever.
Also, like, I would have okay, if anyone's ever seen Man from U.N.C.L.E., which is it's a Guy Ritchie film and one of his best, in my opinion.
Yeah, wasn't it like a spy kind of thriller kind of thing?
It's very much like Guy Ritchie's attempt at a James Bond movie, essentially. You'd love it.
I think I watched it once, but I don't remember much of it. I need to watch it again.
Yeah. Henry Cavill's amazing in it, by the way. Like, he plays this character called Napoleon Solo,
which, aside from anything else, is a badass fucking name for a character.
Yeah. And the dude's just super good in it. Like, he plays an American. And like, if they'd given him that kind of writing for Napoleon Solo, like they did in Man of Steel and stuff, then Cavill will go down as one of the best Supermen in history.
Yeah, it's kind of like how Batfleck was a very, very awesome thing, and they never gave him anything to do either.
Don't remind me.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
At least Brandon Routh got to reprise his role for the Infinite Crisis thing.
He did, and he's also really, really amazing as Ray Palmer, so win.
Great actors all around. Anyway, neither Superman Returns nor Man of Steel lived up to outsized expectations, with the former earning 3091 million worldwide, and the latter taking in 668 million. By contrast, James Wan's Aquaman nabbed 1.15 billion in 2018, and Todd Phillips' Joker scored 1.7 billion and multiple Oscars. Okay,
Yeah.
because they were really good and they didn't shit on the characters.
Yeah, and in the case of Joker, it was keep in mind that was basically with all of Hollywood gunning for that movie in particular and wanting it to fail, which makes it all the more impressive that it succeeded as much as it did.
Mm-hmm.
Did it actually make it to 1.7? I didn't, because like I knew that they were gonna re-release it like the week before the COVID lockdowns happened. I didn't think it got a chance to make much more, but yay. Would have really liked it if it made it to like 1.2 or yeah, like 1.2 million, because then it could have like matched Captain Marvel, and it would have made everyone who likes Captain Marvel so upset, which would have been nice, but never mind.
Mm. All right, but establishing a new tone with the launch of the next Superman franchise is key to Warner Brothers DC film future. As such, little will remain of the so-called Snyderverse vision, which enjoyed its last hurrah with Snyder's 4-hour Justice League bowing on HBO Max in March. Among his handpicked stars that remain are Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, Jason Momoa, Aquaman, and Ezra Miller, The Flash. Okay.
How does Ezra Miller still have his job? He choked a bitch.
I don't fucking know, man.
And he's also one of the single most cringy, effeminate fucks I have ever seen in my life. Keep in mind that this is coming from a gay guy. And like people like Ezra Miller almost are enough to make me think, maybe women aren't so bad in terms of relationships. It's so terrible.
Yeah, I get none. Moving on, DC sees its upcoming Flash movie, which began production in April in London, as its way forward in this post-Snyder world, with the inclusion of such characters as Supergirl, Sasha Calle, and Michael Keaton's Batman. One thing Flash does is set up DC with a multiverse that allows for many of these incarnations and story universes to coexist and have superheroes interact.
Yeah, everyone knows that the Flash movie is Flashpoint. Everyone has known for freaking ever that the Flash movie was going to be Flashpoint, because that's basically the best story you can tell with the Flash that also gives you like 90% outs for all of the mistakes that the world building of the DC universe has made so far. So yeah, everyone knows it's Flashpoint. Everyone has known it's Flashpoint for freaking ever. And if you do anything but Flashpoint at this point, you're a freaking idiot.
As Miller was best in Wallflower film, he should have stayed in that genre.
Oh yeah, he was in Perks of Being a Wallflower, wasn't he?
I think so. I don't watch those kind of movies.
I've seen that because I am a sucker for cheesy romantic movies, and also there were gay characters in that
Yeah, we
that
all know. We all know, man. It's no
fit
secret.
that fit my very particular criteria for um appealing, I guess. But yeah, I completely forgot that Ezra Miller was in that, which goes to show you how much I just have no radar whatsoever for Ezra Miller.
Mm. Yeah, speaking of multiverse, like there are so many like worlds and periods that you could have set the DC universe in that would have set it so much apart from uh, Marvel.
Yeah, I keep harping on this one, but yeah, DC, if you really wanted to go somewhere Marvel can't go, why didn't you just do Golden Age period pieces? Because the news slash DC, Marvel has all but two famous Golden Age heroes. One of them is Captain America, and the other one is Submariner, and they already did the first one. And short of creating an Android Human Torch movie before they actually made a Fantastic Four movie and having a Submariner versus Human Torch movie, that's basic. They can't really do anything in the Golden Age. So what you should have done, DC, is realized you have a virtual monopoly on the Golden Age of comics, and then made a Justice Society movie. That's what you should have done. And you're kind of doing that with Black Adam, so I'm not complaining, but still, it should have been obvious from the get-go if you really, really, really wanted to do what Marvel does, but also do it in a way that Marvel can't touch you on.
I'm also an advocate for an Earth 3 universe. That is the Dark Mirror universe of like the Prime Earth, where like instead of you have the Justice League, you have the Crime Syndicate.
Yeah, it's basically the morally inverted one, where all the heroes are villains and all the villains are heroes.
Man, I would just love to see the villain, like the villain character, the hero versions of the villains.
Honestly, if they really, really wanted to be smart about this, they should have, or they should set up an Earth 3, but have Earth 3 be the Earth where Arthur Fleck is. Because that would blow everyone's fucking mind.
Then Jokester instead of the Joker.
Yeah, but that movie is set early enough in the timeline that you could say he becomes the jokester later, and then you could even do your cliche, class conflict story with the Waynes being quote unquote evil, that way, and it would have worked well. But yeah, that would have made everyone's brains explode if you had the Earth 3 universe also be the Joker universe. But that would require understanding and caring about your own mythos, and lest we forget that Warner Brothers does not care about the DC mythos, which is sad.
Sorry. DC sees its upcoming Flash movie, which I read that. Sorry. So far, every movie and TV show, with the exception of Matt Reeves' Batman, starring Robert Pattinson, and set for release in March. HBO Max's spinoff Gotham PD and Joker, and its planned sequel will take place in the same universe. Okay, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Superman film appears to be moving onto its own track and won't be part of the universe as of now. Sources tell The Hollywood Reporter that Coates is crafting a Kal-El in the vein of the original Superman comics and will have the protagonist hail from Krypton and come to Earth. While the story is currently being crafted and many details could change, one option under consideration is for the film to be a 20th century period piece.
So presumably that you can do a bunch of civil rights pandering, basically. That's that's the only conceivable reason that a Ta-Nehisi Coates-like writer would have a Black Superman story be a 20th century period piece, is to go button the civil rights movement over and over and over again. And that's exactly why Ta-Nehisi Coates should be nowhere fucking near this concept. What you should do, DC, if we're being entirely honest, is make a Static Shock movie. You really want to do a DC version of Black Panther that really jives with, the zeitgeist of black culture, quote unquote. Then take a lesson from the property that you have, DC, that did that before even Black Panther did it. Because I'll tell you something else. There are very few cartoons in the 2000s that would have gotten away with touching on gang culture, but Static Shock did that as its entire premise.
Mhm.
So,
Also,
yeah.
if you ever touch any characters of Milestone, you have to make sure you credit all the creators of Milestone.
Yeah,
I would
that
just-
goes that goes without saying, and their state should get money out of this shit. But never mind.
I was going to say Dwayne McDuffie, but I feel like everyone that worked on Milestone deserves the credit.
Yeah, because Milestone was basically a factory of genius.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Diversity and representation remain key drivers of the DC universe moving forward. Warner's is developing a Latino Blue Beam movie with Angel Manuel Soto attached to direct, and HBO Max is casting a gay Green Lantern character for an upcoming series. And the CW's Arrowverse is about to get its second black female series with Ava DuVernay's Naomi. Batwoman also features a black lead, Jessica Leslie, just as Black Lightning is about to wrap its final season.
Okay, so the Hispanic Blue Beetle does not bother me at all because that's Jaime, and everybody loves Jaime. Jaime Reyes is awesome.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, that doesn't bother me at all. It bothers me a little bit that you're including him in this diversity push, which means that you're going to unnecessarily draw attention to the fact that he's Hispanic like every 5 minutes. But
I'm done. May I for 1 second?
Yes, please please do the thing you do.
I'm gonna die inside when I say this, but as a Latino man, I find it incredibly offensive that I have to be pandered to instead of being given good works of art. I'm done. You go.
Yeah. And I just want to add to Brainstormer's thing because like the reason being Jaime Reyes is already an awesome character in his own right. He's already a complete badass. So the fact that you feel the need to force his race to be an issue when his race has never really been an issue is annoying. As for the gay Green Lantern movie, which I can speak to because I check that particular box. I'm fine with it in theory as long as it's not the main focus of the show. Okay, so backstory time. In Earth 2, Alan Scott had a gay son. This was in the New 52 era. And then when they rebooted or was it just before the New 52 era? Regardless, the next time they rebooted the universe, rather than keep the gay son of Alan Scott, which would have made sense, they just made Alan Scott gay, which pisses me off because it literally erases a self-sustaining gay character and turns another character gay because he's more important, I guess. And as somebody who loves the golden age of comics and therefore loves Alan Scott, and also really enjoys, the occasional gay character in things, this is possibly the stupidest way you could go about it. So please be very careful, DC, when you make this gay Green Lantern character. Don't make him flamboyant. Don't make him effeminate. Just make him a character who happens to be gay, so I don't have to beat my head into a brick wall. Because that's DC. If you do that, if you make him a flamboyant stereotype of a gay person instead of an actual character, that's gonna make me go full Red Lantern, and you don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that. The world will die. The world will die, and it will die in fire. Just fair warning. Like I'm about this close to going full. Yeah, fuck it. Dracula did nothing wrong. Summon the Nighthorn on this shit. Moving on. Last brainstormer left. Again. And which may very well be the case.
Sorry, got some food. I might have to leave again because I was heating up some spaghetti.
Okay.
I did. Something crossed my mind while I was thinking of Superman. This brought up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I want. Okay. From their perspective, I'm Latino, right?
Yeah.
Where's my fucking Latino Superman then? No. Okay. Hear me out.
Yeah. Don't give them ideas. You know someone.
No, hear me out. Hear me out. I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay. Are you going to show your Latino superhero universe that you've been making?
No, dude. I'm not letting some bastards steal it. Please.
Okay.
No, I was going to talk about something made by Bruce Timm, a certain movie that came out some years ago.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember that one, made by Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, I believe, as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's an Elseworlds movie called Justice League Gods and Monsters.
Mm-hmm.
With a Superman that was created on the way to Earth via this weird birthing pod thing.
Yeah, genetic splicing and stuff.
Right. But he has half DNA of Laura Vaughn, I believe. Who's the wife of Jor-El.
Mm-hmm.
But the DNA of Jor-El never got to be, but Zod had integrated his DNA into the birthing pod.
Aha.
So he has the genetic makeup of General Zod. But instead of landing in Smallville, Kansas and becoming Clark Kent, he landed in Mexico and was picked up by a Hispanic couple, a Latino couple.
Neat.
And therefore, he lived as, I believe, a Hispanic immigrant for most of his life. Neat. And all the problems that entail with that.
Mm-hmm.
And he is very much like a Superman, he's very much an anti-hero Superman, kind of. And if anyone knows, their Image comic stuff, like a Mr. Majestic. Where, he kills bad guys.
Well, I mean, he's part Zod, so that kind of makes sense.
Right, but, he's not a total asshole or anything. There's a really cool, promotional episode they did for the characters, in, on YouTube. I think you can find them.
Mm-hmm.
They have this creature called Brainiac, which is a baby Brainiac who's causing, this psychic trouble.
Aww.
Yeah, he can't control his powers, right? He's scared and stuff, and Superman gets through there and, comes to him. He has to make this really big decision of, basically lobotomizing him or killing the little creature, which, again, like a child. And the child understands whatever it is. It understands it, and he says the little thing, like the little brainiac says, "Do it," because they both realize they don't. If nothing's done, more innocent people are going to die.
Oh no.
And like there's this brief moment after he does it, and it's just like this sigh of like he hated that he had to do that. So there's still that good in him, but he's still kind of an arrogant jackass. Like it's always he's complicated. He's a complicated person. But yeah, like all that stuff I said never really crossed your mind that he's technically Latino or was raised Latino.
Yeah, no, it's more relevant that there's this like this nature versus nurture moral quandary sort of thing going on. And also that would make a really kick-ass fucking movie concept, by the way, but that's neither here nor there, I guess.
I don't care about they don't care about kick-ass movie concepts.
Yeah, they care about moral pandering. And unfortunately, black trumps gay in the old, or black trumps Hispanic in the old progressive stack because reasons, and therefore they don't care as much about you as they care about Black Lives Matter.
Well, to be fair, Spaniards did make a lot of trouble back in the day, so.
Well, I don't I didn't want to go quite there, but when do I get an apology for the Spanish Inquisition, you motherfucker? I'm kidding. But I guess nobody expects a apology for the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah. The same thing with like Icon and other. Well, like I said, like there are other like Superman, like Marvel, because like Marvel really likes talking about Superman.
Well, it's probably a function of the usual thing that Marvel and DC always had, which is the whole anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
Fair. But you know, like I brought up Blue Marvel, who, for one thing, you act like if you wanted to do the whole. It's like it's a really interesting character because like he was added, I don't know, like late 2000s. And created by an actor too. Like it was a character created by like a famous actor. I mean, not super famous, but
which actor?
A Kevin something. He was in the Underworld series. Not like one of the mainstays, obviously, but
right. Okay, I'm trying to think. Actors in the Underworld series named Kevin.
Givio.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, he also voiced Black Beetle in Young Justice.
Props for getting around, I guess.
Wow. That's also a writer. That's really cool.
Yeah, well played, sir.
It just came to mind that he could actually play his own character if it ever got adapted into the MCU.
That would be fucking awesome.
Yeah. But no, like, okay. So it's a character. Blue Marvel is a character that was around during the 60s. And he got like superpowers through like a lab accident, like how a lot of a lot of superheroes really do.
Yeah.
And he became the Blue Marvel.
Exposed to like generic toxic waste substance number 1472, therefore powers.
Oh no, energy.
Ah.
Yeah. A science experiment gone awry, you know. But he became the Blue Marvel, like he dressed in a full body suit, And one day, like, his identity was exposed, and he lived in like the 1960s. Keep in mind that, like, with like the emergence of the Fantastic Four, like he was kind of the first wave of the Marvels. But because of the time he was in, he was denied to be a superhero because I'm gonna say it, and it does sound stupid, but because like he has because this character has a fan base. But the U.S. government, or at least like the old dudes in the U.S. government at the time in the 1960s,
well, government bureaucrats are always going to be idiots, so that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, did not want a black man as a superhero in America. Yeah, it sounds stupid, but again, this is a character that is well known and well liked.
No, it makes sense within the context of like the 60s and the civil rights movement and everything. It's just like,
so he stopped being like active superheroing, but he was like a character in the background, and I like that when they add like retcon characters, but it makes sense of why they were never really shown back then,
right?
Like with the Sentry.
Yeah, because they were busy doing other things, or they had extenuating circumstances and everything. Oh fuck!
Therefore, and thanks to like his powers, he's aged slowly, and so in modern day, he's kind of got taken up the mantle again of Blue Marvel. He doesn't wear a mask or anything anymore because he doesn't need to. And he's doing the superhero thing again.
Yay!
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the sort of premise of Eternals is retconning the history of the Marvel Universe. So, if you wanted to throw somebody like that in there, Marvel, just again, let me do your job for you and spoon feed you good ideas. But yeah, that would be where you would put him if you were going to put him anywhere. And how you could make him celestial powered in the MCU if you wanted to. That would be interesting. Plus, it would result in him being able to kick the shit out of Captain Marvel, and she needs to be brought down several thousand pegs. So, yeah.
Yeah. Blade is to Helium. Blade is awesome. I don't care if he is black. Same with the modern genre character they did with Shaft. Where is the Axel Foley of Marvel and DC Universe? That is a good question. I don't think anyone could ever measure Axel Foley in his awesomeness.
It's the eternal question: Axel Foley versus Chuck Norris. Who comes out more awesome?
Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris.
Well, no, they're awesome for two different reasons. Chuck Norris just being the badass Texas Ranger that he is, and Axel Foley just being the everyman, comedic timing, genius cop. Anyway, let's finish this.
Yeah.
As for Abrams, a $500 million deal with Warner Media in September 2019, which he will still wield plenty of influence. He will still wield plenty of influence in the DC universe. With Snyder gone, the Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens director, now will have perhaps the largest footprint as he oversees the Justice League Dark Universe for film and TV.
And incidentally, JJ, get Matt Ryan on the line, and your job will be a half done. You cast anyone but Matt Ryan as John Constantine, and I swear to you, you will unleash a fan backlash of the likes of which that has not been seen. Seriously, Matt Ryan has paid his dues as the character of John Constantine. He loves playing the character. Fans love seeing him play the character. Let him go up a step to the big leagues, please, for the love of God. Plus, he needs his own show back at some point. So do that. Do it. This concludes the petty John Constantine fanboy portion of the live stream for now. Anyway, moving on.
Among the rumored projects is a Constantine reboot for HBO Max X.
And again, Matt Ryan must be there or you have failed at your job. The man has paid his dues. He likes playing the character. Fans like seeing him play the character. Let him play the character.
At a minimum, Abrams should be raising hell at DC with the Hellblazer protagonist.
Okay, you get props for the pun, because that pun is a pun I would make. But again, all I ask, all the entire Hellblazer fandom asks, is let Matt Ryan do what he should have been able to do back in 2014 and give him a full series to play with. Because Matt Ryan keeps playing the character awesomely and getting gypped out of and shortchanged. So just give the guy his props already. He is to Constantine what RDJ is to Iron Man and what Chris Evans was to Captain America. You cast anyone else but him as John Constantine, and somebody is getting a fucking pitchfork to the face. I don't even fucking care. Moving on.
That was it. That was it.
Huzzah.
But yeah, no. As a Superman fan, honestly, I've been disappointed for the last decade or so.
Yeah, you're not wrong. There really hasn't been, pretty much since the end of the Superman the Animated Series show, there really hasn't been a good.
Well, the Justice League cartoons.
Yeah, but I consider them all sort of just to be in the same universe. So basically, after the end of the DC animated universe, it really didn't.
Yeah, that's fair. If you were to give Rian Johnson a DC Marvel character to work with, which one would it be, considering his directing career? Sandman.
I'll kill you.
I'm sorry. I
will kill you, Dad. I will curse you. This cannot stand.
I refute my previous statement.
This will not stand. I swear to God.
I'm sorry. I had to do it. I don't know. Even if I take my personal feelings out of it, which I really don't have any personal feelings with Rian Johnson. To be fair, I haven't really watched much of his stuff besides.
Yeah, I mean, he did a good job in Looper. I'll give him that. And from what I remember of his murder mystery thing that he made, was it Knives Out? Yeah, I think it was Knives Out. I liked that fine, but the problem is I dislike the idea of giving him any established franchise, because he's made very, very abundantly clear that he does not like established franchises, especially ones based on the classical hero's journey archetypes. And unfortunately, comics by their very nature are very, very hero's journey centric. So I don't know if I would let him anywhere near the comic book universes of either stripe. Unless there was for some reason a boys movie adaptation, and then I might give it to him. That actually would seem like a good fit for his sensibilities of let's subvert all the things.
Right. Okay, since we're kind of starting on the, thank you for telling him for kind of getting on this. And we're talking about Superman. Who would you get to write and who would you get to direct Superman? Like a Superman movie? I know we've had this discussion ourselves like plenty of times before. And everyone in the comments, please feel free to give your
At one point, I heard that they were gonna get Matthew Vaughn, the guy that did
Kingsman and Kick-Ass.
yeah, to do a Superman movie, and I think he could do a pretty good job. You keep suggesting Phil Lord and Chris Miller, which is just the correct answer.
Yeah,
To basically anything lighthearted, the correct answer is get Phil Lord and Chris Miller to be involved, and you'll be fine.
They have this weird thing that not a lot of directors or really anyone in the entertainment industry have these days.
Sincerity?
It's not even that. Like it's that, but also it's like this meta sincerity. Like
they're sincere, but they're not so humorless that they can't take the occasional jab at themselves.
Yeah, it's like it's a self-aware sincerity, I think would be.
Yeah, it's kind of a self-depreciating sense of humor. Because most of the time when you get people who are subversive, quote unquote, it's shitting all over the IP in question for the sake of making the director or writer's ego feel good.
Right.
Whereas when they do humor and self-depreciation, they do it to mock themselves as much as they do the IP, and so it works. They don't come off as egotistical douchebags who want to basically fillet their own egos for 100 minutes or whatever length the thing.
Right. Okay, so we both got our directors. Someone who was underappreciated, someone who was appreciated under Richard Donner, but still able to adapt to the present times.
Honestly, I think.
Oh no, apprentice. Someone who was apprentice under Richard Donner, but still able to adapt to the present times. Okay, sorry, I read that wrong.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I think if you got a good writer to pair with her, Patty Jenkins could do it. The problem is you have to make sure she was kind of kept on a leash, because we've seen what Patty Jenkins is like when they just tell her to go nuts with things. But I think the closest thing we've gotten to a proper Superman movie in recent years was the first Wonder Woman. So going that route probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
Right. Like I said, I honestly, for some reason, I keep thinking like a comics writer would be best to write a movie script for Superman. And like I have two that I think would be really good.
Okay.
Well, one is Grant Morrison because he's already written Superman before, and like I think he also tried to write like a Superman comic with like J.J. Abrams back in the past.
Yeah, and Grant Morrison is one of those writers who's kind of always a win. So yeah. Plus, Doom Patrol is amazeballs, so there's that.
Mm-hmm. Or like I mentioned before, Christopher Priest.
Yeah, that would also be a good choice.
Don't forget, Patty Jenkins' second Wonder Woman was following the Justice League timeline.
But it didn't really have anything to do with why Wonder Woman 1984 didn't work as well as the first one. The reason why Wonder Woman 1984 wasn't as good as the first one was because apparently the writer that she worked with on the first one had more of a impact on the first one than everyone thought. And also they basically told Patty Jenkins to go nuts and gave her a blank check to do whatever she wanted with the second one. And without that tempering influence of what the fuck is his name? Is it Alan Greenberg that was the writer on Wonder Woman? The guy, huh?
I have no.
Yeah, the guy who mercifully is going to be the showrunner on the new Netflix Sandman, was Patty Jenkins' writer on the first Wonder Woman, and everyone myself included, made the mistake of thinking that Patty Jenkins did everything herself on the first Wonder Woman, but it seems like whoever that guy is that I can't remember the name of, the one that's writing the upcoming Sandman series or show running the upcoming Sandman series, took her ideas and kind of tempered them in such a way that they worked better and were more sincere. So yeah, I don't think the timeline or the universe that Wonder Woman 1984 was set in had anything to do with why Wonder Woman 1984 was a weaker movie than the first one. I think it was just it was the George Lucas effect. Everyone assumed that George Lucas was the brainchild behind everything to do with Star Wars. So in the sequel trilogy, they let him do whatever he wanted, and as a result, everything in the prequel trilogy was very, very self-indulgent. When in actuality, a lot of the greatest Star Wars ideas came from other people, and being willing to tell George Lucas no.
Yeah, I enjoyed the Shazam movie too, Tilliam.
Yeah, Shazam was good, and that's one of the reasons why I'm really, really looking forward to Black Adam, even though I think the casting for Dr. Fate leaves a lot to be desired. I'm not sure how it's going to affect the rest of the movie, and also, again, I've been saying for ages they should do a Justice Society movie, and we're finally getting Justice Society in a movie, so I'm not complaining as much as I should probably be.
Okay, sorry.
No, I agree. Aquaman was also really good. Fuck Amber Heard with a fucking coral stalactite, but nevertheless, yeah, Aquaman was good. And also, once again, fuck Amber Heard, because she is an evil, evil son of a bitch from everything that we know about her. And if any evidence comes out to the contrary, I will rescind my statement. But at least for now, Amber Heard is a evil, evil bitch, and she deserves nothing. Nothing. Moving on.
Okay, so we are going to return to something we haven't been able to talk about in a while. I don't know how long it's been since last time we talked about this.
I think it was like 3 weeks or so. 3 or 4, maybe.
Okay, yeah, I think, or a month, possibly a month. Okay, so give me 1 sec to double check. Yeah, we're revisiting a article that we haven't covered in like a month because it is a really long ass article.
Yeah, the guy basically wrote a conspiracy theory dissertation on how everything anti-social justice is interconnected into this like web of conspiratorial lies and bullshit.
Right. Full title, because you can't see it here because I'm trying to figure out where we were when we stopped, is In Plain Sight: How White Supremacy, Misogyny, and Hate Targeted the Star Wars Sequel Trilogy and Won.
I thought it was at the end of the Gamergate section was where we stopped.
I think we stopped in the Gamergate section.
Okay.
Because, dude, these parts are so fucking long.
Yeah, because the guy basically wrote a this article is basically one of those like spider web diagrams you see in like conspiracy theory movies where it's like one strand connects one picture of one person and then the next strand connects another picture of another person and it becomes this like massive conspiracy theory. That's this article. It's that spider web diagram if it was written like a college dissertation.
Yeah, so we're gonna spend like, I'm gonna say until 10, and then we're gonna move to something that'll just to end on something happy.
Yeah, because the Venom trailer looks awesome, and it'll be a good pick me up.
Yeah.
After the soul crushing monotony of telling this person how many ways he is wrong in, of which there are many.
Yeah, okay. I think this is where we stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Vox describe again. Like, if you want to go back to podcast number 108.
And I think we also covered it in 107, didn't we?
We've been covering it. We covered it for a while. And then
The point is, if you wanna know our thoughts on the beginning parts of this, there are pre-existing segments in other shows that we've done where we've talked about it. So if you really want to see a full breakdown of this cacophony of self-important stupidity, go there.
At some point I really need to make a playlist for these ones for this part. Anyway, hold on, let me clean my eyes real quick. I think I'm starting to get tired. Anyway, okay. The Vox describes these angry internet mobs as men's rights activists, white nationalists, and neo-reactionaries that Gamergate united around indignation over the inroads that women and minorities had made into video game culture, previously dominated by young white men.
Okay, first of all, no. Video game culture has never been dominated by young white men. Second of all, it had nothing whatsoever to do with women and minorities and everything to do with a particular ideology, that being intersectional social justice feminism. And I will say this as many times as I have to. The rights and interests of women and minorities are not the same as the ideology of social justice. Because, you see, there have been movements about the rights of women and minorities, such as the women's rights movement and the civil rights movement, that had bumfuck nothing to do with feminism. Not a darn thing. Not a single thing. Not a morsel of a micron of an essence had anything to do with feminism. It was the ideological purity spiraling and pandering to feminism and the related corpuses of ideologies within the context of social justice that people had a problem with. It had nothing to do with women and minorities, and everything to do with the ideological pandering that was going on the behalf of the concept of women and minorities. And quite frankly, it's ignorant of you to not know that, number one, there are women who are in favor of men's rights. Many, many popular ones, including probably the most popular the most popular men's rights advocates here on YouTube, namely Allison Tiemann, Hannah Wallen, and Karen Strawn, the Honey Badgers. Some of which I've actually spoken to, and they're awesome people, but that's neither here nor there. But more to the point, there were next to no, and I would say functionally no, actual white supremacists involved with Gamergate. Most of the people involved in Gamergate simply wanted the meritocracy of the medium of gaming that they love not to be beholden to a unnecessarily moralistic, strict ideology that pits different identity groups against each other. That's basically all that is. And incidentally, Vox is a joke. They're worse than a joke. They're a joke that don't know they're a joke. So the fact that you would even cite Vox is itself kind of a ludicrous thing. And I think I've said that once already in the previous segment where we did this, but just to be perfectly clear, Vox is a joke. Men's rights does not oppose women's rights in any meaningful way, and women's rights and feminism are not synonymous with each other and never have been. Just so we're clear. And civil rights and things like Black Lives Matter have nothing to do with each other in the same way, by the way. But that's a different story. Moving on.
Yeah. Okay. One of the best examples of this is the rise of male supremacist ideology in gaming spaces during Gamergate, led by Mike Chernovich, a First Amendment lawyer who became associated with the event. Oh, we already read this, actually.
Okay, yeah, okay. Mike Cernovich leads nothing in relation to Gamergate and never did. And also, male supremacy is not a thing. Even men's rights advocates are not male supremacists. And the reason why is basically down to human evolutionary psychology. Human beings are naturally gynocentric, which is to say that every human has a preference towards women. Women, in general, have an in-group preference, which is to say women prefer associating with other women. And ironically, men actually have an out-group preference. In fact, to the point that they would throw other men under the bus if it meant getting in good with women under most circumstances. So the very idea of something like male supremacy is a delusional farce that you've basically made up out of whole cloth and your own wrong assumptions. The only thing that could vaguely be said to resemble male supremacy is MGTOW, and MGTOW, as a general rule, just want to be left alone. Like they want to opt out of the system entirely. Moving on.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, I feel like we've read this before, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, we have read this section, I think, before, but I'm not sure how far we got past it.
I honestly can't remember, man. It's been a month.
If something starts to sound familiar, I'll let you know, and we can just move beyond it.
Okay. One of the best examples. I read that. First male lawyer who became associated with the event after he offered legal services to Joni. Chernovich has a history of anti-women and anti-trans beliefs. He wrote on his blog "Crime and Federalism" in 2010 that it is now beyond debate that the culture has shifted. It is, or will be soon, a woman's world. Women earn 3 college degrees for every 2 that men earn. Women are overrepresented in managerial capacities. Women have taken over.
Okay. I think those two things, those two statistical factoids that he gave, are objectively true, and therefore are immune to meaningful criticism. And second of all, I think if I had to guess, when you say anti-women, you mean anti-feminism. And those two things are not the same thing. Because, as I said, the women's rights movement and feminism are not and have never been the same thing. Just so we're clear. Feminism does not have a monopoly on women's interests or women's perspectives. And there are plenty of women who are opposed to feminism. And they don't oppose feminism because they hate themselves or some shit, despite the rhetoric around internalized misogyny. They oppose feminism because feminism is a fucked up moralistic ideology that claims to speak on the behalf of people, and in actuality, all it does is use those people as human shields to avoid its detractors' criticism. That's literally all it does or has ever done, as far as anyone can tell. Moving on.
Frequently wrote about how to avoid false rape claims and that women exist for man's sexual pleasure. Yeah, again, this does something, and I think what I had said before was these feel like these are taken a lot out of context.
Yeah, and incidentally, both men and women are for each other's sexual pleasure, because evolution. If sex didn't feel good, human beings wouldn't engage in it, and we would die as a species. This is basic evolution 101. If you don't fuck, you don't pass on your genes, and if you don't pass on your genes, you opt out of the gene pool. That's simply the way the cookie crumbles, I'm afraid. And incidentally, false rape accusations do happen. So why are you insinuating that false rape accusations or learning how to avoid them would be somehow anti-woman? Because that insinuates that women never either accuse that insinuates that women never falsely accuse people. It also kind of insinuates that women never actually do the crimes themselves, which they do. But that's a different can of worms that Cernovich wasn't talking about, so I won't open yet. Moving forward.
Okay, I was wondering. All right, the SPLC has documented many examples of this, including a tweet where Cernovich states, "After abusing a girl, I always immediately send a text and save her reply." Yeah, no, this. God, how far were we? Jesus.
I'm telling you, I think we were at the end of the Gamergate section, or at least much further than this.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna. Okay, you do your talking. I'll try to look.
That strikes me as either a joke or him being a little bit sarcastic and sort of dry and self-depreciating when he says when I abuse a girl, because that's not usually the kind of thing a human being admits to doing, because usually if we can acknowledge something as abuse, we stop engaging in it. That's the nature of such a thing, because abuse is by its very nature bad, and anyone who admits they're abusing someone knows they did a bad thing, because that's how words work. Moving on. If you can find the thing.
Still looking. Give me a sec.
Okay.
Keep going. Keep going.
Let's see. What does Killiam have anything to say on this? As far as no, the last thing he said was the Aquaman thing. So darn. Any progress as far as the finding of the place we stopped, Brainstormer?
I think so. I think the screen froze on the video itself, so I'm just more trying to listen than anything.
Okay, you're actually going back and checking where we stopped. Okay, that makes. I thought you were just kind of scrolling through and figuring out what said for me or what didn't. But okay.
It sound familiar? Nazi radicalization in the furry community. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, yeah, we covered that.
That's still the most nonsensical sentence I think I've ever heard in my life.
Weird ass shit out there, man.
Like I say, this is basically what happens when you leave a conspiracy theorist alone for long enough to do like an academic dissertation on his conspiratorial bullshit.
All right. Okay. Another sec. I gotta check again.
Okay. We interrupt this program to bring you technical difficulties. And I feel like we should have like canned elevator music for times like this. Do 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 do. It is a song that doesn't end. It goes on and on, my friend. And on and on and on and on and on and on. Yeah.
Okay, white nationalism targets the Star Wars franchise. I think we got through that, or not got through it, but we were going through it.
Yeah, we were somewhere in the vicinity of it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm starting to see some other things now. Okay. Um. Okay. Jesus Christ, this guy likes to fucking talk. I'm just now remembering that shit.
Yep. He basically did an academic dissertation on his conspiracy theory.
Okay. One sec. One sec.
Oh. Oh my. It is the song that doesn't end. It goes on and on, my friend. And on and on and on and on and on and on again. It is a song that doesn't end. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do.
I honestly got no clue where the fuck we stopped at. Because the last thing we kind of stopped on was kind of doxing. I don't know where that is. Like, I can't tell.
Uh,
Okay, what have we? All right, let's just start with the new Gamergate result, right? Ideology in Star Wars fandom. I think. No, no. Fuck's sake.
the density of the absurd stupidity is real, quite real.
Yeah.
I'm now beginning to remember why we only like allow ourselves an hour increments on this. Hmm.
Okay, let's just. Be there. Fuck's sake. Okay, let's just. Yes, pain in the ass. All right, the new Gamergate, the rise of alt-right ideology in Star Wars fans. Does that sound familiar?
Yes, it does, but
Okay.
I think this is close to where we stopped. Okay. Once again, Gamergate had nothing to do with the alt-right, and the fandom menace, or like the broader like fandom backlash to Star Wars, also has nothing to do with the alt-right. The alt-right is a vanishingly small fringe group within a fringe group within a fringe group of morons who think that the only problem with identity politics is that their identity politics aren't on top of it. And as I've said many times in relation to this, the only major figures, quote unquote, within the alt-right are Richard Spencer, a guy by the name of Baked Alaska, and a guy by the name of John Francois Getty P. And they are all morons. In particular, Richard Spencer, which is ironic considering that CNN actually occasionally has Richard Spencer on as a guest, and yet they call us the alt-right somehow. And to be fair to CNN, the only reason they have him on is because he is the enemy they would rather they were fighting, as opposed to the enemy they're actually fighting, which is anyone who believes in meritocracy outside of their fucking framework or worldview. Moving on.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I was eating spaghetti.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay. Star Wars Episode 8. Yeah, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, released on December 15th, 2017, to universal acclaim from critics and a glowing audience score from CinemaScore, the only statistically sound audience score available to the general public. False. All of that. Well, the critics think, sure, but that's because the critics are dumbasses.
Yeah. Who gives a fuck what the critics... Okay. I don't want to do that. The critics are only a subsection of the audience. The fact that you give them more clout than you give the audience is meaningless. Because that is essentially you saying that some section of the audience is invalid, or their opinions are invalid inherently, which is fucking elitist and authoritarian and moronic, and shows a level of cognitive dissonance on your part, which kind of explains the conspiratorial web of lies and bullshit you've been spewing for the last page and a half, which has taken us like 4 different fucking hours on 4 separate different occasions to refute.
I think it took us like 2, or it took up the whole. Actually, like the whole.
Yeah, the first time we did it took up like the whole live stream,
and that was
and
just the introduction.
Yeah, and then the second and third time we did it, we mercifully limited ourselves to 1 hour apiece because fuck me, looking this far into the abyss is just soul crushing.
Right. Speaking of which, we only got.
Let alone trying to actually make some kind of rational sense of it.
All right. 30 minutes left, by the way. Thank God.
Sweet release of death.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The movie would go on to gross $1 billion in less than 3 weeks and become one of the most successful movies of all time. No one cares.
And how does that fare in relation to all the other Star Wars movies, by the way?
Oh. Yet, even with its obvious success, the narrative surrounding the film claimed that the movie was one of the most polarizing Star Wars movies ever released. Okay, Dom.
Yes, because Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, it's just like something brief, and I'm sure you'll on it during your rant. Just because a movie is financially successful doesn't mean it's always a good movie. An example I would like to bring,
or that the reaction to it isn't divisive or isn't good. Because I mean, Avatar was the most successful movie in the world for quite a while, and no one can even remember or give, or at the very least, large parts of fandom cannot remember or care about that franchise anymore. And also, this was the tack I was gonna go with it. How does that compare to other Star Wars movies, especially if you adjust for inflation? Because the thing that you are forgetting is that Force Awakens made almost twice what The Last Jedi made. And even if The Last Jedi did make $1 billion, that doesn't mean that it wasn't divisive. especially when you consider that there are actual large swaths of the fan base telling you that it was divisive because they didn't like it. And then you have the other side going, despite the fact that it is divisive, we did like it, but that's still an acknowledgement that it's divisive. The only way this can make sense in your head is if you assume a large swath of the fan base is somehow tainted or invalid. And that's your fucking woo. You can't substantiate your own woo with itself. Because that is the very definition of a circular argument. It's like saying I'm right because I know I'm right. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And it is philosophically and logically incoherent. You moron. And we can move forward unless you had something else.
Moments passed. Thank you for interrupting me, by the way.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I was just gonna bring up examples on like successful quote unquote movies, even though like they were shit.
Yeah.
And good movies that were not financially successful.
Yeah. Every Transformers movie makes almost as much as The Last Jedi did. Does that make them good? Or does that mean that there aren't a large swath of people who dislike the Transformers franchise in general?
Hi, how you doing?
And yet, ironically, to substantiate what Brainstormer's talking about, the one that most people liked, Bumblebee, didn't do well, which is just kind of sad.
Yeah, actually, I'm not going to go into a rant about Transformers right now.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say like it does not do justice to the actual franchise. Those like Michael Bay movies.
yeah. Would you go so far as to say Twilight wasn't divisive because those movies were financially successful, even though large swaths of YouTubers and professional comedians made a business of mocking Twilight ludicrously for the like decade that it was a pop culture phenomenon.
Right, but again, my point still stands. Like, and I was also going to bring up like a good movies that did not get the we're not financially successful. Yeah, like Dread.
Yeah. Or one of my favorite movies from a couple of years ago, Doctor Sleep, which was a sequel to The Shining, and it was better than the Stanley Kubrick Shining. And anyone who disagrees with that can bite me. And yet it bombed in its opening weekend, and despite the fact that it cost like $200 million to make, and honestly, in my opinion, probably should have made like somewhere in the vicinity of your average Marvel movie, it only made like, I want to say 10 million or so in its first weekend, I think, which is just sad because Rebecca Ferguson deserved an Oscar for her performance as the wonderfully villainous Rose the Hat in that movie. And everything about that movie was better than the Kubrick version because Stanley Kubrick made The Shining weird in Stanley Kubrick's way for the advancement of the ego of Stanley Kubrick. Mike Flanagan made Dr. Sleep weird in a Stephen King way to kind of tie in the cosmic weird aspects of the Stephen King universe, which are amazing.
Yeah. That's Dread. There really is another movie that I like that did not do well financially successfully. Like I'd say Pacific Rim, but that did well enough
to be ass raped by a sequel that nobody wanted.
Not going there. Not going there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got an point being, just because a movie is financially successful does not mean it's good. Like by its own merit, I mean.
Yeah. And even if it were good, that doesn't prevent a movie from being divisive, especially when you have a large swath of the public telling you this is by default divisive because I didn't like it and other people did. That's what divisive means. It means there is a schism in the vox populi, in the court of public opinion. That's what divisive means. You don't get to say this movie isn't divisive because the people who didn't like this are invalid. Nor do you get to say in the inverse, if you hate a movie, like say I don't know, Joker perhaps, and large swaths of the public do like it, you don't get to say they're stupid and invalid for liking it either. Because the word divisive doesn't just mean bad. The word divisive has a specific definition that requires a schism between 2 points of view on a given topic in like the broader zeitgeist. And you can't just sweep a divisive topic under the rug by saying anyone who has a problem with this divisive topic must therefore be wrong and invalid because I say so. That is you being incredibly intellectually dishonest and a bit of a fuckwit.
Right.
Moving on.
20 more minutes of this shit. Yet, even with its obvious success, the narrative surrounding the film claimed that the movie was one of the most polarizing Star Wars movies of release. This narrative was overwhelmingly driven by the film's Rotten Tomatoes audience score that currently sits at rotten 42%, and calls from vocal quote-unquote fans on Twitter to fund a remake of The Last Jedi.
You do not get to put the term fan in air quotes because you are not the arbiter of what a fan is. And most of the people who criticized The Last Jedi did so on fan-based grounds, namely that it subverted the Joseph Campbellian hero's journey that Star Wars has always been based on, the Campbellian monomyth.
Right, but I also should point out that it subverted not in a way that added to the story.
Well, no, because Rian Johnson basically all but said he wanted to use The Last Jedi as a means to an end rather than an end itself.
Of course it did.
So, yeah. He basically said, I didn't like Star Wars, so I thought I would invert Star Wars to make it more interesting to me.
Oh, that motherfucker's never read any of the expanded shit.
Yeah, and people still for some reason don't understand why any Star Wars fans had any issues with that. And incidentally, the other implication of your putting fans in air quotes there implies that fans must always be on board with anything that happens to a franchise. When in actuality, if you knew anything about fandom or investment in an intellectual property, you would know love isn't just indiscriminate praise. Love is holding things to standards. It's okay. I've used this analogy before, but it works. So I'm gonna evoke it again. Let's say you have a family member who you love very dearly, and this family member is on drugs, and it is very evidently not healthy for your family member who is on drugs. Do you, as an act of love, let them basically destroy themselves because you love them and therefore you should be okay with anything they do? Or do you, as a person who hypothetically loves this person, stage an intervention because the drug addiction they have is not healthy for them? I would hazard a guess that most people, upon being faced with that choice, would choose the second option. Because sometimes when you love something, you have to criticize it. Because sometimes things fail to live up to their potential or what is good about them. And if someone you love is ruining their life or ruining their talents or wasting their talents, it is your obligation as someone who loves them to point out to them that they are wasting their potential and to insist that they not get the fuck off. Sometimes love implies criticism. Moving on.
Okay. According to @RM The Last Jedi, the account behind the campaign to remake remake The Last Jedi. The film was bad because the creatives behind the film lost their way from the hero archetype, in quotes. There isn't much explanation on what this means beyond Kelly Marie Tran's Rose Tico failing to live up to this fan's expectation of being a badass pilot. In fact, many complaints against the film are aimed at its female characters. One
Okay.
fan illustrated this when he released an edit of The Last Jedi with all women removed.
Okay, enough. Enough. If you knew the first thing about Star Wars, you would know George Lucas was a protege of one Joseph Campbell, who was himself a protege of Carl Jung. Now, Carl Jung is rather famous for his notion that human human understanding narrative is something that we have by virtue of evolution and is stored in the quote unquote collective unconscious, which basically it's basically saying that all humans process like stories and narratives in the same way, and we understand like we categorize information in similar ways. These ways he referred to as archetypes. Joseph Campbell took this idea of the Jungian archetypes and he applied it to the mythology and storytelling of various different cultures. And he discovered there was a universal sort of underpinning, or he proposed that there was a universal underpinning of all storytelling called the monomyth. George Lucas, in turn, took this concept of the Campbellian monomyth from Joseph Campbell and decided to create a story within the structure of the Joseph Campbellian monomyth that would incorporate pulp adventure science fiction, like Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers and that, old school westerns, and television serials, because those were three things that he loved when he was a kid, because George Lucas was a nerd. So he took the structure of the Joseph Campbell monomyth, added those elements of those things that he liked, and the rest is history. And you would know this if you knew the first thing, the very singular first thing about the basis for Star Wars, which is why subverting something like Star Wars hurts it more than most other IPs, because it is based fundamentally on the Jungian / Joseph Campbellian archetypes. And if you undermine those archetypes, you undermine the very core of what it is to be Star Wars, because Star Wars was designed specifically to service that Joseph Campbell style monomyth. You moron. I, I, this person claims to be an intellectual and doesn't know a damn thing about Joseph Campbell or how Joseph Campbell relates to Star Wars, even though that is the first thing George Lucas always says whenever he gives an interview about what were your inspirations for Star Wars. The very first words out of his mouth are almost invariably, I was a friend and fan of Joseph Campbell, so I created a Joseph Campbell story. God damn it.
Neat.
Moving on.
Mm-hmm. Yet, even as sexist motive behind the backlash were revealed, as an alt-right Facebook account claimed credit for the review bombing of The Last Jedi on Rotten Tomatoes. More on this one later. No one could escape the narrative that The Last Jedi was divisive. Yeah, it still was, even though that...
Yeah. Even though the people you disagree with were the ones who were being negative about The Last Jedi, that doesn't mean that The Last Jedi was therefore not divisive because those people somehow don't matter or something. The word divisive means there is a schism, a splinter, a polarization within the popular understanding of a thing, which means there is one side who is saying, this is great, this can do no wrong, this is wonderful. And then there's another side saying, this is crap, this is terrible, this undermines everything this should be. Which objectively did happen, no matter how much you do or do not like the people involved or their opinions. Because the word divisive doesn't just mean bad or invalid, it means the result of or the cause of a schism within a popular understanding. A math.
All right, from a data analyst's perspective, there isn't much that is divisive about an exit review poll of an A in a movie that grosses as much money worldwide as the much anticipated final installment of the Harry Potter franchise.
Okay.
That
and again, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, again, like what we said earlier, is that just because a movie is it grosses a lot of money and it's an exit review poll of an A. I don't know what that is though. Like, I didn't have that.
It's Cinema Score. They basically go up to people who have just seen a movie and they ask, what did you think of the movie? And then based on people's reaction to it, they give it a letter grade.
Okay, well, one thing that didn't happen to me. Two, that's completely random, maybe, but I don't know. It's just like, I feel like that's really stupid.
Yeah. 3, even if you view financial success as a metric for quality, which is stupid and you shouldn't do it, but even if you did do that, you have to look at these numbers in context, which if you really are a data analyst, you should fucking know. You never look at a variable in isolation. You always look at variables in as much context as you can get, because that's the very nature of what it is to analyze data. And if you compare the financial successes of other Star Wars movies, other movies within the same franchise, especially if you adjust for inflation, you will see that Last Jedi made less than half of what the previous movie in the franchise made. And this may not be enough to indicate there's a fan backlash, but if you then see the rudiments of a fan backlash to Last Jedi, then you have to be able to put 2 and 2 together and not come up with 5. If a movie makes less than half of what its predecessor made, and then you see large portions of that movie's fan base saying, I didn't see it because I didn't like it, or I didn't support it because I didn't like it, then that clearly means that someone fucked up. Whether you like the changes to Last Jedi or not, whether you think it's a great movie or not, it at least demonstrates to you that there is a significant portion of the Star Wars fan base, whether you want to admit to their existence or not, that disagree with you. And this disagreement is what is meant by the word divisive. Cunt. Moving on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Naysayers will claim that the movie is a failure because it didn't gross as much as The Force Awakens, but benchmarking a second film in a franchise whose value is partially tied to the fact that the franchise had produced no content in more than 10 years is not the best approach. However, the debate raged on. That's all I'm taking away.
Again, maybe not in isolation, but if you look at it in context, a context wherein half of, or a very large proportion of the fan base are saying, we boycotted or we didn't support this movie because we didn't like it, and we in fact found it to be a betrayal of everything that the franchise should be, that should tell you something. You should factor that into your interpretation of the data you get. And also, if you adjust the Star Wars franchise for inflation, it has always done better than Last Jedi. The only change to it is because of the reaction to it. You can say Force Awakens did a little bit better because people were starving for something Star Wars related, but we know definitively that if the Last Jedi had if Last Jedi had been just as good as Force Awakens, it probably would have at the very least done better than Last Jedi did. Because that's implying that half of Force Awakens box office was because of some starving within the fan base. And given that things like Star Wars: The Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, and that sort of thing exist, to say that there's been no content in relation to Star Wars before Force Awakens is just kind of dumb. Moving on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for the sake of argument, once again, no metric that isn't an intellectual brand tracker or segmentation within Disney will be as statistically accurate as the cinema score. Okay, that's clearly false. I wanted.
How exactly the hell are you granting cinema score with more legitimacy than actual numbers? It's an arbitrary letter grade taken from a random sample that doesn't even apply to a large portion of the population, because it's not like every movie theater is surveyed for cinema score.
Yeah, hi, hello. Not that never happened to me when I left my movie theater.
Yeah, it not only did it never happen when I saw Last Jedi, but it has never happened to me in any movie ever. Granted, I'm in the middle of fucking nowhere, but if you truly wanted this to be a reflective metric, you would post cinema score evaluators outside every single movie theater, or at least every single major movie theater, and then it would actually be a more reflective measure. But the fact that you can convince yourself that that cinema score is a more accurate measure of people's reaction to it than people's actual reactions to it, which they can document by showing you videos and blog posts and every other thing, or the cold hard box office numbers, which show a literal halving of the box office numbers, is kind of baffling. And you call yourself a data analyst, for fuck's sake. In the immortal words of Inigo Montoya, you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
I actually just watched Princess Bride, or clips of it, today.
And?
That's good.
Oh, I forgot that you haven't seen the full version yet, have you?
I might have seen it when I was younger. I just don't remember it. I don't remember a lot of things from my youth.
Right. Well, your youth was rather busy because you had life events like every 5 minutes, like life-altering events every 5 minutes. But when you and I meet up, we'll definitely have to watch at least a few movies, and that will probably be one of them.
Okay. I wanted to conduct a sentiment analysis on two major social media platforms, Twitter and YouTube. If this video is truly polarizing, there should be a positive to negative sentiment ratio of 1-to-1. This means that for every positive tweet or YouTube video, there should also be a negative tweet or YouTube video.
Not necessarily if the audiences are not evenly weighted between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And also, that's once again assuming a larger or more authoritative position on the part of the critics than it is on the part of the audience, which is just fucking stupid.
Mm.
And also, if you find more people on the negative side than on the positive side, that should also probably tell you something, which you will probably find more of. Because the people who are willing to defend Last Jedi and Force Awakens and all the rest of it are, if nothing else, much less committed to their position than the people who dislike it. Because most of the people I've spoken to who tacitly like Last Jedi say things like it was all right or it was fine or it was okay. They don't say it was wonderful, it was great, it was fantastic. They say, it's okay. Whereas if you were to ask someone in the Phantom Menace about Last Jedi, be prepared for the 2-hour dissertation about everything that was wrong with it that you will get. Because they are passionately and they are invested in their position, whereas people who like Last Jedi in general are not invested in their position.
All right, last part of this article. Additionally, if The Last Jedi truly divided fans, we should see a similar mix of the types of accounts spreading positivity or negativity about the movie. In other words, tweets getting the most likes or YouTube videos receiving the most attention in the search algorithm should proportionately come from people with similar backgrounds, in air quotes, here is defined as affiliations people have with a certain profession, such as a journalist or community online, such as YouTubers. We should also see both positive and negative sentiment from average fans rising to the top of the conversation. Dalton, take it away.
Okay. For one thing, know if the search algorithms are in some way biased or filtering out data. Know if the people of either position are on different or are located differently. And this is the thing. You're viewing this as though the entire world is just a flat one-dimensional sphere, which it isn't. You yourself have engaged in elitism and in authoritarianism within the context of this article and various appeals to authority and shit. So you know the difference between essentially class struggles. You have one class that is the and you can literally see this on things like Rotten Tomatoes. You have one class that is the journalist class, the authoritative sources class, quote unquote, that is disproportionately in favor of Last Jedi, and then you have a larger swath of people in the populace at large, in the actual people who dislike Last Jedi disproportionately. It can't be 1-to-1 because the critics and audiences themselves are not 1-to-1 reflections of each other. There is your problem. You're expecting if one person you consider to be valid holds a position, then everyone in the world must on some level hold the same position. But what you have here is the very essence of a class divide, because you have two different worldviews clashing. And therein lies the problem. The fundamental issue here, and the thing that no one has ever made plain to you, is you are out of touch elitist quasi-aristocratic cunts. And when you are faced with the populace, with the people, with the peasantry, if you like, disagreeing with you because they share a different worldview than the one you share, you find ways to make them either morally, intellectually, or otherwise inferior to yourselves in your own minds. And therein lies the problem. You yourselves are the aristocracy, and the people you dislike are the peasantry. but you don't want to give yourself the intellectual permission to hate the peasantry because you understand what would be wrong with that. So instead of calling them the peasantry, you just change the label a little bit, you change the justification around a little bit, and then boom, you get to hate the peasantry without even acknowledging that you're hating the peasantry. You get to act like fucking Marie Antoinette without even acknowledging that you're being an elitist cunt. You get to be as elitist of a cunt as you possibly can and still think you're the underdog somehow. Therein lies the massive fucking Grand Canyon of cognitive dissonance in this whole fucking argument. And now on we move. Thank fuck.
Yes, indeed. Well, yeah, so this is going to be a palate cleanser from both articles of Stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And the Hollywood Reporter wasn't as stupid as I thought it would be.
No.
This is the Venom Let There Be Carnage official trailer.
And I find it funny that the least poisonous thing we've covered this week is literally called Venom.
Right. Shall we banana?
Please. I feel like there should be a different word.
Honestly, I'm too tired to think of anything.
Uh-huh. I can't think of anything either. So, banana.
Banana.
I say either. You say either. I say neither. And I say neither. Neither. Either. Neither. Neither.
I'm going to say, like, this seems to have a little more personality than the first one, but I'm also chopping that up too because Sony fucked with the original creator's vision.
Well, that Sony does that all the fucking time. So yeah. But I also could chalk it up to they've learned their lesson a little bit, at least. So,
yeah, like, obviously, I'm just saying, like, this trailer already seems to have a lot more personality from just, like, everything you've seen, like, from the apartment. Like, it's the same apartment from the last movie, but it just seems to have more personality. Like, it really...
The lighting is different, the, like, aesthetics are different, everything's a little bit different, and the actual, like, atmosphere is very, very different. And quite frankly, as somebody who thought that the first Venom was kind of an unnecessary throwback to the 2005 era of superhero movies, this is a much improved thing.
I also like that they're just going full on, like, goofy comedy.
Yeah. Have fun, goddamn you. It's not that hard.
Yeah. All right. Banana?
Banana.
Let's call the whole thing off. That's up.
Excuse me.
Youngie.
Good evening, Eddie.
Hey, Mrs. Chen.
Good evening.
Yeah, no, again, like, this just, it has such a different feeling.
Yeah, it's taken everything that the first movie was, turned up everything that I liked about the first one, and, like, made everything I didn't like about the first one, like, completely disappear.
Well, again, and I'm going to chop that up because, like, if I remember correctly, they said, like, 40 minutes of the film was cut out because it was the R-rated version.
Of course it was.
Which Venom makes sense to be R-rated.
That being said, that doesn't account for things like tone and style. So, I'm just chalking this up to they've learned.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay.
Banana.
Banana.
Good evening, Venom.
Mrs. Chen.
He says hi.
One is the loneliest number that you'll ever do.
I've been thinking about you.
Two can be as bad as one. It's the loneliest number.
Because you and I are the same.
I don't care what people say about Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy. I think he's going to do awesome.
Yeah, this could not be casted any better if they tried, and so yeah.
Well, maybe Joaquin Phoenix, but really, if you put him in anything,
Well, but I mean,
It's
the
not-
world would explode.
it's Joaquin Phoenix. He'll do awesome in anything.
Also, can you imagine if the first role he played after playing Arthur Fleck was Cletus Cassidy?
Honestly,
That
I
would-
feel like him as an actor would not place two roles. Well, Arthur Fleck was. They're on the same spectrum, if anything.
Though, while we're on the subject of roles that Joaquin Phoenix probably should have played, Joaquin,
We all know.
yeah, why you make me suffer through Benedict Cumberbatch? Why you do this to me? Why? Okay, moving on.
Okay.
Banana.
One sec.
Every decision we ever make, who do we leave behind? And how do we leave them? Waiting in the darkness for the rescuer who never comes.
So I respect that they're adding like a very minor character in the Spider-Man mythos to this in the movie with it, which is Shriek,
Yeah.
and that is like this Harley Quinn to Carnage's Joker.
Yeah.
Which-
It's a very obscure poll, and obscure polls will always at least get respect.
Yeah.
If they do it right. If they fuck it up, then that's a different story, but
Shall we?
we shall banana.
Banana.
Never comes. Welcome back, Eddie Brock. It's been a long time. Miss you so much.
I'm gonna say it. Like this, is no like offense. This is in praise of Woody Harrelson.
Mm-hmm.
He really does pull off that like stereotypical serial killer kind of character.
He does.
Just because like he's so calm and just like that nonchalant attitude about it all,
Yeah.
which is very much a serial killer. If we go off from like all the movies and stuff
Mm-hmm.
and TV shows.
Yeah.
And books.
I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Hannibal Lecter, but
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like
he's clearly having fun with the being able to color outside the lines of like morality, and I think it's going to result in him being a very likable character, even as he's fucking terrifying, which is honestly the hallmark of a good villain.
mm-hmm. Banana.
Yep, banana.
Soon come chaos. Chaos soon come.
Yeah, I can tell that really everyone in this movie just had fun making it.
And so much the better. So yay,
Banana.
banana.
on this number that you ever do.
The chocolate delivery hasn't arrived yet.
No!
We had a deal.
What's gonna happen? You gonna stop protecting me?
Sorry, 20 seconds. 10 more
Uh-huh.
seconds. I'm gonna play that out.
I am happy to eat, Mrs. Chen.
No, you cannot eat, Mrs. Chen.
What?
Nothing.
I don't know what people say. I like the comedy in this. It seems to work.
Yeah, it's much more lively and organic than the first one. So
Mhm.
yay.
I won't say I'm excited because I try not to be for any movie. Just to
Mhm.
keep my expectations tempered.
The design of Carnage was amazing though. So
Yeah. I wish they had made him a little more skinnier, lanky.
I wish the reds were a little bit more vibrant too, but that's
That could just because it could be because they're not done yet or something. That
yeah, it always, rendering is a son of a bitch for advertising movies, but rendering.
yeah. But yeah, it is something I am interested in this movie.
Yeah, and after the first one, I was just completely done with this entire idea of a franchise. So you got me back on board, and
It's
that's
not mainly just as like a guy who's done editing and stuff. It just felt like a lot. It just felt like it was missing something, a lot of something actually.
I was probably gonna see this anyway, if for no other reason than to support Andy Serkis, who is directing this, because this is like his,
Seriously?
Yeah.
Holy shit! Well, that
Yep.
explains why there's so much fun going on. And
it's like his first blockbuster, direction opportunity. So
neat.
Yeah. hopefully it does all the money and it's really, really good, and then presumably he can go over and direct. I don't know. Honestly, if he's good at Venom, then he should do a Moon Knight movie, because that would just
I mean, they technically can't.
well, they can't yet because they haven't done the series yet. But I mean, after the series, there's no reason they couldn't do one. Or hell, Andy Serkis's Howling Commandos with Werewolf by Night, Man Thing, and like Nina Price. That movie, like Monster Squad meets the Goonies, is just now I want that. I want it.
Picturing just the image in my head is like Caesar from the Planet of the Apes movies, like the reboot,
Mm-hmm.
in like a director's chair with like a director's hat and like the big like cone microphone. Call action.
Well, I mean, also Gollum from Lord of the Rings, so
Well,
there's that.
To be fair, Andy like Caesar was what I grew up with mostly.
Uh-huh.
Those movies are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And
I mean, if you have anything else to say, Don.
no, just congratulations to Andy Serkis. This looks awesome. Please don't disappoint us. And then go and make all the movies your heart desires, because you should.
Yeah. So we're gonna kind of end it very early, just because I went in on a high note. Also, I'm really tired. I need to get like into an actual proper sleep schedule.
Sleep is good.
Yeah. So with that, folks, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, auf Wiedersehen, sayonara, peace, cheers, and
Fuck off.